Hello, this is Angelia with today's wisdom. Today's wisdom comes from Daily Ohm. Plunging into the deep, life can be scary. And we all know that is true. If you've ever had no time at all in your life where you've not been scared, then something's probably wrong here. You should probably go see about that. But we all get scared of something sometime in our life. Life can take us on a roller coaster ride full of highs and lows. And that's certainly true. And, and twists and turns. No one's life is perfect. I've never met a person that told me their life was perfect. Everything went just how they planned. There were no twists or turns or up or down. I would be amazed if I ever met that person. I'm hoping when we get to heaven it's going to be like that. But here on earth, not so much. Even for those of us who enjoy unexpected thrills, and sometimes we do, when someone gives us a nice little surprise or something good happens that we weren't expecting. Like the other day, I got a check in the mail from a gallery that I had some art in, and I didn't know I was due the money. They had paid me what I thought I was owed, and then they said, oh no, we owed you more money. So I was like, okay, that's cool. They had paid me in 2 separate payments. So that's cool. We like these things when the good things happen. It's frightening to suddenly find ourselves heading for a deep plunge. And it is, just like when you look at the top of a roller coaster and you think, oh my gosh. When something bad happens, it usually doesn't give you any warning. Sometimes it does. But that is something that can surprise you and give you that same feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh wow. Yet it happens to all of us. At these moments, it is important to remember that you are not alone in your experiences, and you're not. Every human being here on earth has had bad stuff happen to them and had good stuff happen to them, and that's just life here on earth. No matter how brave, strong, or level-headed we are, sometimes we all get scared. And that's true. I don't know. It's been a while since anything really scary has happened in my life. And I credit that to the fact that I am older and, I don't have a lot of expectations that things are going to be perfect. So, when you're a kid and you grow up and you're getting ready to go out in the world, you kind of have those expectations. It's like, all right, my adult life's going to be great. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then adult life happens. And it's not exactly what you had planned or envisioned. So, things can be scary. But now, when unexpected stuff happens, I get more ticked off about that than I do get scared. So, like, what in the world? Things change as you get older and your perspective on things change. It's more of a bump on the road than something that came out of left field. Our fears may revolve around our physical safety, particularly if we are not feeling well, living under difficult circumstances, or doing work that exposes us to hazardous conditions. Now, I have been attacked on more than one occasion. And in my neighborhood, we have had guys come over the back fence, and we have had someone break into our garage. So, yeah, I don't feel safe by myself out in my own yard. And that's a shame. That should not be a thing. But it is a thing because of what has happened in the past. I was attacked in my own home. My door got left unlocked, and a man came in. So, I understand that feeling for your own physical safety. But now we have an alarm system. I have a panic button. I have a lock on my bedroom door, and that's basically our panic room. And I have a panic button on the wall so that when I push that, the alarm goes straight, for my alarm company to the cops, and, they come immediately. I am armed, so, if I don't think I could take you, I pretty much have something that will take you. So, I don't fear for my safety. I'm just prepared. And sometimes when I don't feel good, I don't even like to answer the door. If I'm sick, because we have supposedly door-to-door salesmen going around all the time. You never know if they're for real or they're fake or whatever, trying to rip you off. My old neighbor across the street, had 2 guys come in that were supposed to be doing some work for him. They beat him up and stole his firearms because he had a little collection, and his money and coins and stuff like that. So, like I say, if I don't feel good, I don't even go to the door. I just don't even answer it. I figure if it's someone I know, they're going to call me, on my phone and say, hey, come to the door. So I don't even do it. Living under difficult circumstances, I have been in that position. My husband and I, we had some problems. That's why we've been divorced and remarried. But he came up in a situation where he was being parented by a narcissistic sociopath. So he never felt loved or cared about. So every time I said anything critical, he felt like that was a personal attack and that I didn't love or care about him. So eventually we end up going to couples counseling to get all that crap hashed out because, I'm just who I am. I'm a strong person. And when I say something to him, I'm not trying to be mean or critical. I'm just saying the facts, as I see them. Like this, you said this was going to be done. It didn't get done. Did you forget? Did you not want to do it or whatever? But because he had heard that, a lot from his mother meaning it mean, he got triggered whenever I would say stuff. So, we had to hash that out, and I had to learn, to try to say things more positively. Sometimes you don't want to say things more positively. You want to get your point across. But, so there were issues on both sides, and there usually are. It takes 2 to tango, as they say. But if you're living in a difficult circumstance, you are waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're like, well, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen today? I'm not going to... There are people who walk on eggshells for their significant other. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to walk on eggshells for you. Because life's too short, and I'm not dealing with that. If you got a problem, I'm going to tell you got a problem. And that might be my problem, but I'm not going to walk on eggshells for you and baby you. That's not going to happen because, from my opinion, if you're supposed to be a grown-up, then you're supposed to be a grown-up. I shouldn't expect bad behavior from you, but some people exhibit bad behavior who are definitely over the age of 18 and 21. And doing work that exposes us to hazardous conditions. When I was younger, I took a psychology class my senior year in high school, and I never thought about that being a dangerous profession until I was working at a psychology group. And then there was a client, and let's face it, they're really patients, but we call them clients because, unless you're a psychiatrist, you're not a doctor, so they call them at psychologist's office clients. So a client was being belligerent, and wanting to lean over into my space in the window and grab hold of my appointment book. And I told him he could not do that, that there are other people's names and numbers and things in this. You cannot have access to this. I will write this down for you. And he was like, well, I need to look at your book. I need to look at the calendar. I was like, you can look at the calendar over here on the wall. You cannot have my appointment. And he started getting raw with me. And then the office manager came over and started talking to him. He started, yelling and screaming at her. And the psychologist that he was seeing heard this, came out of the office and said, come here, you need to come with me. We need to have a little talk. And I don't know what he said to the man, but the man came out and apologized for his behavior. So that could have been an escalating thing. And at that office, we did have a panic button underneath the desk. I accidentally hit it with my knee one day. And the cops called, like, did you call? And I was like, no. And then I figured out, oh, well, it's sitting low enough. I'll lower my chair down, so I don't hit it with my knee. But my boss told me, yeah, I've done that a couple times. So, its placement was in a bad spot. It should have been over to the edge of the counter or something, not directly where you sit. But I guess that's so you could be sly and push the button, where you sat. But then we had a provider who was in there one day, and he was listening to another provider who told him that I didn't do her credentialing. So if he wanted me to do his, he had to stay on top of me. Well, the facts are she never gave me her stuff to do her credentialing. I don't know where I would have got it from if not from her, because they send it to her in her mail to the, so I don't know where I would have got it from or how I would have known that it needed to be done, right? So this guy physically got up on me and put his legs, I had turned around in my chair, and he put his legs between my legs, and was pushing my chair backwards. And the back of the plastic chair was bending so that I was bending forward. So needless to say, that was very uncomfortable because, yeah. So I told him, I said, you have not given me anything and even told me that you needed any credentialing done. How am I supposed to know? Don't give me your, he said. She told me that you messed up hers, and I was like, no, she never gave me anything to do hers. It's your job. It's your job to do it. I don't have to tell you anything to give you anything. And I was starting to hurt. He was starting to hurt my back. That chair was bending. I was afraid that plastic was going to snap and stab me in the back. Next thing I know, the owner of the office comes out and says, hey, you need to come with me to my office right now. And so they went in the office. And I could hear the yelling back there. But I was going to push that panic button because he was hurting me, and I was concerned that he really was going to snap that chair in two, and I was going to get stabbed in the back, and I already had back issues. So, I had never thought that working in an office was dangerous. But in that case, it clearly was. But anyway, the owner came back out with him, and he said, he has something to say to you. And he said, I apologize for my treatment of you. I didn't know that you didn't know when I needed to be credentialed. I assumed that they notified this office in some kind of way. I didn't realize that it only came to my house, and that I was supposed to give that information to you. I don't guess the other person knew that either. We were just told you do it, so we assumed you were supposed to do it, and you weren't doing it. And he said, I apologize for my treatment of you, but I work in the penal system, and I'm used to handling people on a much rougher scale, and there was no excuse for it. And then he left, and the owner told me we will not be doing his credentialing or the other lady's credentialing. And I said, good. So I didn't know that working in an office could be dangerous, but in that case, it was. And I know of some providers who have been attacked. So, yes, psychology is a dangerous field. And one of the women I used to work with at a counseling center, she was great. She let me practice. I had to buy malpractice insurance, but she let me practice life coaching and things at her office. I had my own little office and everything. It was great. But she told me, you know how a lot of people talk about occupational habits? Well, like a mechanic will say, yeah, I think that's what's wrong. Well, when you learn psychology, you also start doing that. You start analyzing everyone. And you can start seeing patterns and behavior issues. And you start saying, well, this person might have this, and, if you're ethically, you're not supposed to tell people which think they have. It's supposed to be, if they ask you, you can tell them. But you're not supposed to be like stopping people and saying, I think you're a narcissistic sociopath. Or I think you're a paranoid schizophrenic. But, ethically you're not supposed to do that. But when you start looking at folks, you go, huh. So that's also an occupational hazard. And, people can tell there's something different about you, and they don't like it. Like a person I used to be in a relationship with, I met them for lunch. They had left town, like 26 years before. But they wanted to talk to me about something. So I went to lunch with them. And, I had a knife in my purse and everything. I was ready. But, they exhibited such immature, I pegged them as a narcissistic sociopath pretty quick. But the immaturity level was just as high as it was when I knew this person when they were like 26 years old. So, they made a pitch to woo me back, and I was like, no, not interested at all. Well, why not? Why not? And so I started citing some reasons why not. And then he got ticked off because, I could see through his behavior, whereas when I was younger, I couldn't. I took him at face value. There are occupations, where there are problems. And like I said, you wouldn't have thought working in an office was one of them, but it can be. And of course, there's people who work with dangerous machinery. My youngest son works with dangerous machinery. And I worry about him a lot, especially when he goes to places where he could fall, or they put him down in a mine shaft at a coal mine one time and with just some cable, and I was scared to death. I was praying like all day long because, you never know. But yeah, sometimes places we work can be dangerous. Or we may be experiencing financial woes that are causing us to be fearful about making ends meet. And of course, me and my husband have had that problem. We were younger. We joke about living off peanut butter and macaroni and cheese because it was 25 cents a box, and a can of tuna, which was, about 25 cents. But for a long time, we lived like that. Peanut butter sometimes was too expensive. Sometimes we had like $1.38 left in the bank account before payday. So we were roughing it hard. And then when I was a single mom, there came one night where I had one burrito for the four of us. I cooked that burrito and I split it in fourths. And I took the little end with mostly, the bread. I gave them the pieces, the biggest pieces with the good stuff in the middle. And then I went down the next day and got applied for food stamps because I was like, no, I can't do this to my kids, sometimes making ends meet is scary. And, you think about just any disaster. Something would have happened to me if I got too sick, or whatever was going to happen. So, that can be scary. We may also fear the loss of a loved one who is sick. And, I've had situations, like that. Like I said, my mom had one heart attack. And she was so weak, she couldn't even put her clothes on. At first, in the hospital, I was helping her get her drawers up and everything. So, that was scary. And then, like I say, when she got better, we thought she was good, and then that was it. And then, like I say, I watched my little sister go for 2 weeks. And, she got hit by a car, and her brain was swollen, and just go down and down and down. And, it is scary, especially when you see that there's nothing going to happen that's going to fix things, and you hope there's a miracle, but it doesn't show up. God had other plans. Or you may be scared of never finding someone special to spend our life with. Now, a woman that used to live next door to me, her husband had passed away, and she was alone for quite a while. And then she was in her early 80s and met someone at church. And I have a friend of mine who had never had a boyfriend, never had a significant other than a friendship kind of thing. Well, she was in a rehab place and met her boyfriend. So, and she was in her 50s. So, you never know, and you should never just give up and accept things, because then you can make self-fulfilling prophecies where if you act like a certain way, like this is how it is, then you're going to take actions that show that to other people that this is how you are. You're closed off, you're not interested, or whatever. We may be scared to start at a new school. And I remember I was scared to go to middle school because I had heard bad things about my middle school. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be awful. This is going to be terrible. I don't know if I can stand it. And then, once I got there, I met a lot of new friends, and a lot of my old friends were still there. Unfortunately, some of my frenemies came. But, for the most part, I had a lot of good friends. And so that's what got me through that. Begin a different job, and only when I was really young was I scared of beginning a different job. That's usually because of the last job. There were some people who weren't great. Like, I worked at a place where my mother worked at first. And there were some older ladies who were not very nice to me. They basically told me, I thought I was all that and all this crap. And my self-esteem was, like, so low. I never thought I was anything. So, and my mom was picking on me, talking about my socks. I shouldn't wear socks in the wintertime. At work, I should wear hose, but my feet were cold, so I wore socks. And she had this thing about colors matching. I wasn't allowed to have mismatched colors. She could wear navy blue pants with a teal shirt, but I couldn't do that. That didn't match. So, people are weird. But that's, in my 20s was probably the only time. The rest of the time, I didn't care about, getting on a new job or who was there, what they did. I was strong enough that I was going to take care of myself. So, moved to a new town, and I've never done that. I know people who have, and, it can be lonely and scary. And I know a woman who moved all the way across the country, but, she still keeps in touch with us via social media and stuff. So, there's ways to make things less scary. Or meet new people. Now, I know people who have social anxiety. They can't stand the idea of meeting people. Me, I don't care. I'll meet anybody, talk to anybody. It doesn't bother me at all. But I know for a lot of people that social anxiety is a very real thing. Whatever our fears are, they are valid, because you can't help what you're afraid of until you learn enough about it to not be afraid of it. And we do not need to feel ashamed or embarrassed that we are at times afraid. Because like I said, until you find out about something and learn about something and see that it's not something you need to be afraid of, then you might be. It may be comforting to know that everyone gets scared. And of course we all do. And it is perfectly okay. It's a valid emotion. We all have this emotion at one time or another. So it's nothing to be ashamed about. Sometimes just acknowledging our fears is enough to make us feel better. Because, I remember doing that with my friends. We would do that, I'm scared I can't pass the test, or I'm scared I'm going to fail, or, stuff like that from school. And while it sometimes takes us a lot more, oh my gosh, to ease our mind, we can console ourselves with the knowledge that life can be scary at times. And of course it can. Giving ourselves permission to be scared less lets us move through our fears, the syntax though, so we can let it go. And that's what we have to do. We have to move through our fears so that we can get over them. And usually the only way that happens is through experience. You have to experience something time and again to learn that it's nothing to be afraid of. It also makes it all right to share our fears with others, because it helps to share your fears with others. It helps, you to get over it, to understand it, Sharing our apprehensions with other people can make our fears less overwhelming, because we are not letting them grow inside of us and as pent-up emotions. And some people do that. They don't let anything out. They keep it all in. And then one day they metaphorically explode, and all this stuff comes out. So don't keep stuff pent up. Talk about it. That is the only way you're going to get through it, get over it, is you have to talk about it and, take out your garbage. Sharing our fears also can lighten our burdens, because we are not carrying our worries all by ourselves. And that's, what your significant other and your family are supposed to be for. You're supposed to be able to talk to them about their, your stuff, and make it better. remember that you are not alone. And even if you don't have anybody else in your life that you can talk to, you can talk to God. He is there. He will listen. And you can pray about everything, and He will help you out. So, life can be scary. And if you want to plunge into the deep and start swimming in it, what you're going to have to do is to face your fears. And that is really the only way to get through them. Think about it. Please like and share this wisdom so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. Thanks for watching. That's all for now. Until next time.